Hello creators, how are you guys? It's great to hang out with you again for another Video Creators podcast episode. And I am so excited to dive into this with you guys because a lot of you guys, just like me, I used to do this too, and I still do this sometimes, but I'm trying to get better at it. We make this really big mistake in that we want to make videos that people watch, and so we focus just 100% purely on the content itself, and then the content itself doesn't really perform very well because it's not actually connecting with an audience. And so today, what I want to do is talk about some of the content we're making, yes, but also talk about some of the things that we need to do in that content in order to make it easier for people to actually connect with us and not just get the information they want and then leave, which happens a lot with educational material, especially on YouTube, but get the material that they need, get what they're looking for, but then also want to come back and watch more and more and more and turn someone from just like a passive viewer who never heard of you before to becoming a dedicated fan of your channel and a customer of your business and all that. So we're going to dive into that. I've been working on this myself with my wife on a project that we're doing. And so I want to give you a little glimpse behind the scenes of what we're doing here and kind of walk you guys through the process that my wife and I have gone through to kind of do that for one of our channels. So excited, looking forward to diving into that with you guys here today. But first of all, I want to welcome all of you who are here on the live stream recording of this. We will be answering your questions like we normally do. The recording, if you're in the podcast audience, sometimes referred to as the podience. I actually brought out the podience language again last week, and I've never gotten so many tweets and Instagram tags. Some people are even tagging me in their Instagram stories and saying like, yes, I was part of the podience again. So I know some people hate it. Some people love it. It seems to be a very divisive type of thing. But yeah, so some of you guys are in the podience, I suppose. Some of you guys here on the live stream, we are live streaming this. If you're in the podience and you would like to join us, I really don't know what I think about that name because I call you podience. It really does sound kind of bad. I mean, it's hard not to get around that, right? But I think that's why some people love it. But anyway, we'd love to have you. We live stream these every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. And if you are in the live stream and you happen to miss one of these, want to catch up on one of them later, feel free to go check out on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, any of those places. Just search for Video Creators or Tim Schmoyer. Will pop up. You can subscribe and catch up on all the latest episodes there. So if you have any questions, those of you who are in the live audience here, if you have any questions, Laura, my producer's in the chat, and she will be taking those questions, taking them from the chat, putting them in front of me, and here in a few minutes, I will do my best to go through as many of them as I can. So make sure you leave those there for her. Yes, Nicole likes podience. Silver Fox Forest says, my friend's name is Poddy, like with a D, Poddy. And yes. So some people, like Harley says, it's very corny, but it's fun. Brian and Aaron love podience. And so, yeah. So, and welcome. Yeah. So, I don't know. Sometimes I bust it out just for old time's sake, but sometimes I just kind of leave it tucked away. But today, though, let's talk about how we get people to actually engage with our content and help them form a deep connection with our viewers. Now, there's two levels where this kind of needs to happen on. And really, ultimately, it's all about, if we're going to talk like super high level, this is all considered branding. Okay, so branding is like, what do people feel? What do they think? What do they believe about you and what you represent and what you're all about? And how easy is it for them to figure that out and have the signals that they really need in order to really love you and your brand and your content, what you're all about? And so a lot of people, I know, maybe sometimes they think of branding, what they think of as like, oh, my icon for my YouTube channel or my logo for my website or whatever goes in my business card and that type of thing. And yes, it includes those types of things like the visuals and things, but it is much, much, much more than that. And so you can definitely have like a personal brand, for example. And when you think of personal brand, you don't really think of logos the way you would think of like Disney or Nike or something instead, or even Apple. You think personal brand tends to have like a more personal feeling to it, right? So let's talk about some of the things. There are two levels, and the first one is primal branding elements. I want to go through this part pretty quickly because we've spent a lot of time talking about these things in past episodes. And then I want to get to the story side, which is where I want to spend most of my time with you guys here today. But on the primal branding side, in case you're not familiar, there's a book written by a guy named Patrick Hanlon, and a book called Primal Branding. And what he does is he looks at all of the top brands that develop cult-like followings, and he simply asks the question, what made it easy for people to really fall in love with these brands, follow everything that they're doing, become a part of everything they're a part of, buying everything that they create? And it's actually a very reproducible process and system. And when you break down these 7 aspects of the primal code, which I'm going to go through very briefly with you here before we get into the story stuff, those elements are very prevalent in like all the top YouTube channels that are just like crushing it on YouTube. They're just killing it. They have almost all 7, maybe not all 7, but they'll have at least 5 or 6, which are just super strong in their content. And these are the things that people need to hear. These are the reasons why someone could have a 7 full-time production crew, on their YouTube channel using $20,000 cameras and a beautiful set and not break 20 views on a video. Whereas someone in their basement with a webcam or just their phone can literally get millions of views, right? Because it's not about the production quality. Or it's why some musicians will go double platinum and sell out concert venues, even though they're actually terrible musicians. Right? Like, and the musicians that are actually been trained and practicing their whole life, and they're really talented musicians, like no one buys their stuff, no one goes to their shows because the branding elements, like the primal branding elements, are all missing from who they are, what they're about, and things like that. It's why some products why some products are inferior to more superior products, but the inferior products outsell the superior ones all day long because of some of these same branding things. So that's why. And so for you guys, the YouTube channel is like why you can make a video and no one really watches it and it doesn't really get the traction you want, is because it's missing some of these elements. All right, so let's talk about some and many other reasons too, but this is definitely a big part of it because from an algorithm perspective, the YouTube algorithm is designed to respond to whatever people are responding to, right? And so whatever is capturing someone's attention, holding their attention, getting them to watch more, that's the content that the algorithms favor is that type of stuff. And I do algorithms in air quotes because it's literally thousands of algorithms, not just like one, but overall, the search and discovery systems on YouTube. That's what we're talking about here. And so let's go through these 7 aspects of primal branding real quick, and then I want to kind of walk you through a project my wife and I are working on, and some of the behind the scenes things of how we are getting ready to make our channel easier for people to form a deeper connection with us. So first of all, primal branding elements. Number 1, according to Patrick Hanlon, that one of the main things people need to know is, he calls it your creation story. And this is just simply your backstory of who you are and how'd you get started. It provides meaning, creates context for everything that happens after that in their interaction with you. And so for a lot of you guys who've been around here, you've heard my creation story about uploading my first video in March 2nd, 2006, as a way of introducing my girlfriend at the time to my family across the country while I was in graduate school. And then we started just making little videos that now would be known as vlogs, but back then we were just being awkward in public with a camera, right? And posting those on YouTube. Other people started watching, which created some concern in me because this is MySpace era and you don't use your real name on the internet back then, right? And so I was a little concerned about who these people were and why they were watching and what brought them back to my content. And that's when I started trying to start answering a lot of those questions, which then other people later on wanted to answer those same questions. And then that kind of, long story short, evolved into where we are today. And today we've done YouTube strategy for Disney, Warner Brothers, HBO, Century 21, Budweiser, eBay, all big, even YouTube themselves. We've done some projects with them, all the way down to people who are just getting started. And our team is responsible for over 14 billion views and 61 million subscribers that we can directly take credit for with our clients. So it's been a lot of fun. So just knowing like someone's backstory can really be helpful. And I left a lot of out because of the nature of the time constraints that we have here. But for me, this is all about reaching people and changing their lives, because the part of the Christian story I left out is that I was a youth worker at the time. I really loved seeing people's lives change and impacted. And I was working with about 180 students a week in my full-time gig. But on YouTube, at the time, my family was reaching like 1 million people. I actually married that girl, we kept going on YouTube. And before long, a few years later, we were reaching like 1 million people a month with our family stories. And we were seeing the same amount of life change and impact coming out of that as we were seeing in our actual job and career path. And so I was like, if my goal is to actually reach and impact people, like I might be able to, like 180 kids is great a week, but 1 million people a month, I'm like, oh, this type of life change could be like scalable. And then I was like, well, what if it wasn't just me doing my 1 million people a month? What if I could show other people how to get to their 1 million a month, or their 10 million or 160 million a month? Like, what if I could help that? Then like the amount of impact that I'm having on the world could be exponentially increased, but then I could also be helping more creators like yourself reach and impact more lives as well. And I was like, that's the direction I want to go. And so basically, there's the creation story, but I just shared with you number 2, which is the creed. According to Primal Branding, it's like we need to know what you believe, what you stand for, and what you represent. Why are you here? And what is this all about? What does this mean to you? And so having some sort of creed, you guys have heard mine, reach people, change their lives. For some people, it's master YouTube, make more money, master YouTube, feel more popular. But for me, it's just about reaching people and changing their lives. And so having that creed is important as well. Number 3, there has to be icons. And these are just the things that people just, when they see it, they recognize it, and they know like, oh, I associate that visual with that brand, like Nike swoosh or Disney Mickey Mouse bunnies, or the YouTube play icon, right? Or, mine are getting kind of weak. It used to be my hat, but my hat is kind of like, it's too generic now. A lot of people wear, it's not a big deal. And mine needs to be stronger in terms of icons and stuff. It used to be a goatee, but I shaved that off. And so I do need to create some stronger ones myself for my brand. But the visuals that people grow to expect. Maybe in case, if for you guys here on the live stream, maybe it's this microphone with this mic flag that I have that has like my logo on it, which is an old logo. I need a new one. We updated it. We refreshed all our icons and stuff too. But maybe this is like iconic. So when you guys see this setup right here, you're like, oh, Tim Schmoyer, right? Number 4 are rituals, and these are really powerful. These are just the repeated interactions that people grow to love and expect with your brand. Okay, so like when I start these podcasts, I start them all the same way on purpose. Every podcast and live stream opens with, hello creators, how are you guys? It's great to see you again. Today we want to, and then I get into pitching the topic that we're going to talk about, right? And so I say that like that same way, because in the chat now, when I go live, they'll even do this. They'll be like, hello, they'll put like lots of zeros. Hello, creators, because people are like looking forward to this. And like, if I just opened up a podcast being like, hey guys, what's up? Let's talk about this. And people will be like, whoa, what's wrong with Tim today? Right? So a lot of creators like Dude Perfect, if you watch their channel, they have tons of rituals, whether it be their celebratory dances that they do, or every single video is pound it, noggin, see ya, right at the end. There's Beauty Pie with like the fingers, or there's the bro fist, or there's, let's talk about that, Rhett and Link, or Good Mythical. Well, that's actually a different one. But yeah, there just needs to be something like every single video, people are like, that's why I love, or every single podcast or whatever, every interaction, there's something that they grow to love and expect. And so those rituals are really important. Number 5 are the non-believers, and these are like the haters. These are the people who don't believe what you do. They're actually not a part of your creed. Now, they don't have to be like actively against you and fighting against you. It's just like, we know who we are and we know who we're not. And who we're not is people who want to master YouTube just to make money and just to feel popular. It's like, okay, there's other places on the internet where you can go to do that. And yeah, you guys, okay, I will, I'll number I see in the chat, people are like, hey, I missed this number. What's that number? I'll go through them all again here in a second. But the number 5 are the non-believers. These are the people who just define this is not who we are. And that's important too. Number 6 is the sacred words. And these are the words that we use that whenever people hear it, they're like, oh yeah, that's that person. So like good mythical morning or good mythical beast, right? Those are sacred words. If you guys are mythical beasts, if you've never heard that term before, you are scratching your head right now. But if you watch Rhett and Link's YouTube channel, you know that that is like a sacred word. That is something that they have. It's also a ritual that they have. Where you self-identify as a mythical beast, or beard lovers, right? Or it's maybe taking it outside of YouTube context. If you guys watch Dave Ramsey or listen to Dave Ramsey at all on the radio, he's got tons of them. You know, whenever someone asks him, hey, Dave, how you doing? He always says, better than I deserve, right? So if I'm out at a restaurant, someone just casually asks me, hey, Tim, how you doing? I'm like, better than I deserve. They're like, hey, Dave Ramsey, huh? It's like they immediately think Dave Ramsey. Or it's beans and rice and beans, right? Or the paid off home mortgage has replaced the BMW as the status symbol of choice. Like that's the creed, the belief. All right. So anyway, those sacred words, the language is kind of like inside language for your channel and your brand. Now, a lot of creators make a mistake here and they just assume that the sacred words are the sacred words for their industry, right? But I'm not talking industry. I'm talking you specifically as a brand. And then number 7 is the leader. Who's the leader? Who's the person leading this charge? Who are they looking to, as the person who's like, the person that is like kind of, leading this charge and being kind of responsible for heading all this up, kind of the facilitator of this movement. Okay, so number 1 is creation story. For you guys in the chat are like, hey, I missed all this. And what was it? Yeah, so number 1 is creation story. Number 2 is the creed. Number 3 are the icons. Number 4 are the rituals. Number 5 are the non-believers. Number 6 are the sacred words. And number 7 is the leader. I highly recommend you just go and buy Patrick Hanlon's book called Primal Branding, and not sponsored or anything. But at the end of each chapter, just think through like, okay, how do I implement this better into my channel and this better into my channel? And I think it would be really, really helpful for you. Now, I want to dive into questions because I can see there's some good ones here popping up. But I want to go through, if you have more questions in the chat, by all means, get it in there. Laura will get them in front of me as she's already been doing. But let's talk about now the second element of this. So there's, one is the primal branding elements, but the second thing in terms of high level, in terms of how do we get people to form a deep connection with us and our content and our material is I'm not quite exactly sure how to summarize this. So let me kind of just brain dump here for a second, and then maybe after that I'll know how to summarize it better. But when we create our content, we have to remember that when people watch our videos, they are not watching our videos in isolation of any sort of personal context. Right, so they click a video because the title and thumbnail set an expectation or tease some value or tease a story or something that person wants to consume. And there's a reason why they want to consume it. It's not just they're like, oh, like I have nothing else to click on here, so I might as well click on that. Even that is a reason for clicking. There's always something going on in the viewer before they watch. And so the best way to hold someone's attention and to make your content connect with them on a deeper level is to understand what that backstory is before they click on your video. So then when they start watching your video is connecting exactly with what a specific viewer wants, is looking for, what they need on not just a pure content level, but on an emotional level too, where these people are like, not only was this video really helpful, but I actually like this guy and I'm learning a lot and but I actually feel like, I want to come back and learn more from this girl or this guy or whoever, And so like you have to remember that each of your viewers are actually living a story and they want to be the hero in their story. And so along the way, they come sometimes to YouTube looking for a guide, which becomes us. And so we need to, like, they're trying to overcome like an obstacle that they're faced or some sort of conflict. And that could be as simple as like just avoiding boredom or not letting their mind drift to somewhere where it would drift if it wasn't for watching YouTube videos. All the way to like, I need to solve a complex problem to pass a test or to get a career advancement or whatever, right? It could be anything. But they come to YouTube wanting something. And we need to know what that thing is the audience wants so that we can become a better guide to helping our viewer, the hero, become the hero of their story that they want to be. And so when we do some of the story stuff, I want to walk you through a couple of questions that you should ask about your audience in order to make your videos fit them better and thus have a better, deeper emotional connection with them. But it really helps our video fill that gap in the experience of our viewer and what they're trying to achieve and trying to accomplish. So let me walk you through the questions real quick, and then I want to go back and share with you guys some of the things that my wife and I are working on in YouTube on a different project, and how we are answering these questions that kind of give you some ideas of what this looks like practically. So the main questions, again, the main goal we're trying to accomplish is we want to craft videos that connect exactly with our target audience, so that when they find us, not only are they like, oh, where have you been all my life? I need to watch every single video from you. But when they find us, they feel something too. It's not like I got some good information. It's like, or I got an entertaining story, but I got a good story. I got good information, but I also really like these guys and want to keep going. I want to watch more from them. So let me walk you through the questions real quick so that we can understand who our audience is, and then I'll give you some examples. Okay, so number one, who is your audience and what do they want? Okay, and so maybe you can already sense the direction I'm going with these questions isn't so much like normal demographic type of direction, which is age, race, gender, geographic location, median income level, things like that. But we're already talking story format, which is who is this hero, this character, and what do they want? The basis of any good story is that there's a hero that wants something. Any movie, any story, anything you watch on TV, usually they just come right flat out and say, I just want that girl to notice me, or that guy just needs to die, or whatever the case is. The main character just flat out states what they want. And now the rest of the story revolves around, does this person get what they want or not? Okay, so who is your audience and what do they want? Then number two, is there something forcing them to act and to pursue the thing that they want? And if so, what is that thing? And so it can't just be like, yes, they want something, but any good story is like they want something, but there's an inciting moment, inciting incident that happens where the character now has to make a choice. Can I go back to the way life was and just experience status quo? Or do I need to go now into the unknown and pursue this thing and the inherent risks and dangers that come with it because I can no longer accept status quo? And so what might that be in your audience's life, that one that's forcing them to act? Third question is, well, why can't they have that thing though? What's standing in their way? What are the obstacles that are preventing them from actually getting what they want? They know what they're facing something. They decided to act, but they don't know how to overcome it. What are those things? Next question is, well, what will happen if they don't overcome it? What's at stake? And this is really, really important for the people to know, like, yes, I want to go this direction, but if I don't get this, what's going to happen? Well, if you don't get people to deeply connect with your content, they're going to become if they subscribe, they'll be very passive subscribers, and they won't really watch as much as you would like them to, and they'll probably be more likely to make a transaction with the next person who is forming a deeper connection with them, and your channel and your business might fail and die. And I don't know, like I'm kind of going down a rabbit trail here, but what's at stake? And then next question is, well, how can you help them? How can you be the guy that comes along and help them overcome those goals, those obstacles, and avoid the risks that are at stake so that they can reach their goals? Next question is, what will they be able to do with your help that they couldn't do before? So how are you the guy going to equip them? What's the proverbial sword that you're going to give them to help them fight that dragon, that enemy, that adversary, in order to get what they really want? And then the final, two more questions. The next one is, what will victory look like for them? And how clearly can you articulate that and say, this is what victory is going to look like for you on the other side? And then finally, in the end, how will they be different than when they started? Because any good story actually revolves around character transformation. It is about, like, did they actually get what they wanted and things? But the thing that separates a good story from like a story that people just like from a story that people love, is that the character is now different at the end than they were in the beginning of the story. The conflict changed them in some positive way. Okay, so we're taking all like the basic story elements, applying it to your audience. And so let's go back through these questions and let me give you some examples. So that channel that I first started uploading to when I wanted to introduce my girlfriend to my family, and then we ended up getting married and our first job, first kids, marriage, honeymoon, all that kind of stuff on that channel. That channel is still kind of going today. It's our family's channel. You can find it on YouTube. It's called Schmovies. So my last name is Schmoyer, Schmoyer, and the channel is Schmovies, Schmovies. See what we did there? Get it? Uh-huh. Yeah, kind of corny, but it's what we're stuck with now. So Schmovies, okay, is the name of our family's channel. And it's kind of been like a side project for a long time, for several years. And we kind of upload content to it whenever we have time, which ends up being like, I don't know, once every 1 or 2 weeks or something. We get something not on a schedule. It's just kind of like, we got 7 little kids. We had 7 kids in 8 years. I'm growing a business. Their team's growing. Like there's just a lot going on. And so it's just kind of like the side project that's kind of been on the shelf. Well, my wife is wanting to take that off the shelf and wants to do something more intentional with it. And so we're going through this same process now that we do with all of our clients that we work with and people when we walk them through this process. But my wife gets it for free, okay? Because we do it when we're in the car driving. So the first question is like, well, I asked my wife, her name's Dana. I was like, who is your audience and what do they want? And so she's like, this person is a mom who has toddlers, and this mom has felt like she's lost her identity. She doesn't know what her own interests are anymore. She doesn't know what her hobbies are anymore because her entire life has been taken over by taking care of her family, and she's not really taking care of herself. And so this person doesn't actually even remember the things that they used to enjoy, that they did for fun. Instead, their time is used up changing diapers, meal planning and grocery shopping, cleaning, doing laundry, running kids to different activities and events, coordinating play dates, juggling nap times, learning how to best respond to their kids and discipline challenges and all that. So this mom just feels exhausted. She feels worn out. She feels undervalued, underappreciated. She feels a little bit lost. She doesn't even know who she is anymore. She feels lonely because she doesn't really have the close friends that she used to have because now that she's got kids, all her time's going into them. And so she doesn't have anyone that she can talk to regularly. She feels a little insecure about how she's parenting because she sees all these other posts on social media and she feels like there's a standard that is out there that she doesn't feel like that she lives up to. She feels like she's more of a maid and a nanny sometimes than a wife and a mother. And she just really feels exhausted, worn out. And so what she wants is she wants to discover what brings her joy and how to include her kids in that. Instead of feeling like she has these 2 separate lives, she's being drained in the family and then she finds joy outside the family. She wants to know, like, how do I get joy inside my family? And she wants a healthy marriage with her husband. She wants them to be on the same page, working together in terms of discipline and all the family responsibilities. And she wants to feel like she has that husband there as her teammate to have a strong marriage. So that's her answer to question number 1. Who is your audience and what do they want? The next second question is there something forcing this person to act? And if so, what is it? And so this person, like, she just feels like she can't function anymore. She feels like she's lost control. She feels like she wants to run away and give up. And she feels she can only think of negative ways to change the situation, to change her life. And so she feels just like kind of lost and hopeless and doesn't think that there's any possibilities of how to make things better. She's just kind of been like, this is the way my life is going to be for the next 18 years, and I'm not looking forward to it. I want to get away from my family. Rather than finding her family as a source of joy, she just wants to get away. So number 3, the third question is, well, why can't they have what they want? What's standing in their way? Well, in the case of my wife's target audience, she's like, they just need someone to help them think clearly and figure out how to take next steps and make things better. But they don't have someone they can trust or someone who's willing to listen to them. That's standing in their way. They also, like, their own attitude sometimes makes them feel like life can just never get better. So she doesn't even try. finances and lack of resources, like to hire help or hire babysitting or use grocery delivery services or even go to therapy. Like she wants that, but she doesn't have the money to do it. She doesn't have a good example to follow. Maybe she didn't grow up in that type of family that she's envisioning she wants to have, or maybe there's just no one in their life that they can imitate. Maybe this person, she also has got like physical health is declining, emotional health is declining, spiritual health is declining, social life is declining. And they're just not managing their time well enough to even build relationships with people who could encourage them. So those are all the things they want and the reasons why they can't have it. So question number 4 is, well, what will happen if they don't overcome this? Like, what's at stake? Well, in my wife's case, this person, this mom, her well-being of themselves personally and their kids and this person's marriage and her relationships as a whole will continue to decline. Her kids are going to grow up struggling with their own identity because their mom was struggling with her identity. She's going to experience broken relationships and maybe even get as bad as isolation and depression if she doesn't overcome this. That's what's at stake. So question number 5, how can you help them? How can my wife help them? My wife said, just sharing my story and the depth I've been at and how I overcame it. And I can tell you personally, parenthetically here, my wife has been through a lot with this. Having 7 kids in 8 years is no joke. And all the postpartum stuff my wife has been through is crazy. So my wife is the perfect person to, like, now that our youngest is about 1.5 years old now, my wife's kind of coming out of that and can think and see things a lot more clearly and is having all these epiphany moments and things about herself. And so my wife is definitely there. So my wife wants to share her story, the depth that she's been at, how she overcame it. How else can she help them? Well, my wife says that she wants to share the wisdom she's received from other people and help other people kind of through the wisdom that she's received. She wants to provide encouragement. She wants to speak truth into their identity. She wants to give tips on how to explore your passion and creating a new passion. She wants to do tips on house management because, again, my wife and I, having 7 kids in 8 years, like, we've been forced to figure out a few systems that a lot of families aren't forced to figure out when you only have like 2 or 3 kids. When you get to 7 kids, ages 8 and under, a lot of those systems break down pretty hard and you're forced to figure some other things out. So just like growing a business, right? The more the business grows, the better systems you need. Same thing with the family. The more the family grows, better systems that you need. Question number 6 is then, well, what will they be able to do with your help that they couldn't do before? And for my wife, she's like, this mom can feel like there's hope for her parenting struggles. She can feel like she has control over her situation in her life, that she can overcome loneliness and having a community of real life moms that around them that can support them. That this person will believe that her children are actually a gift and a blessing and not just an obstacle to overcome to get to what she really wants at the end of the day, which is a glass of wine and just to sit down in bed and watch TV. Which is nothing wrong with that. No judging, by the way. My wife and I certainly, we sit down with like chocolate and TV or just conversations sometimes. But mostly the goal there is to change their belief about that children are a blessing and that they are a gift. And then also figure out who this mom is. Like, she wants to figure out who is this person? What is, like, we want this mom to figure out what they love doing so that their kids are able to find their passion and security in that relationship and things too. Question number 7, what will victory look like for this mom? My wife said, and she just wants this mom to go to sleep at the end of every day, being able to voice one positive thing that happened that day that she is proud of. No matter how big, no matter how small it is, she can go to bed every day saying, I have one thing that I'm proud of that happened in my family. Also, being able to see and recognize a win each day, because sometimes when you're in depression and you're just feeling the weight of all the responsibility and everything, like, it just feels like there's no wins happening. So, but sometimes there are, you just don't see them because of the mindset that you're in. And so being able to recognize those wins. Also feeling like my wife wants this person to feel like they're growing spiritually and in her relationship with others and in her relationship in her marriage. And then finally, just also a victory would look like managing her children and household optimistically. And then the final question, number 8, is in the end, how will they be different? Or how will they be transformed? How will they be different than when they first got started? Is that this person will look at her kids and find joy in being a mom. And so we're kind of working through value proposition stuff and things right now, but something about reclaiming our identity in motherhood, so that you can We're still kind of figuring out this next branding part, but like something about reclaiming identity and motherhood is kind of the direction it's going, if it's going to be summed all up. So those are the 8 questions that I would recommend that you guys write down and then answer about your audience. And so what we're trying to do here ultimately is not just like understand some information about our audience that shows up in our YouTube analytics, but actually getting to know, what is this person's story? What are they being impacted by? And how can this, how does what my video fit into their story? So that when someone who has the story finds my video, they're like, it's like, that was a suction sound effect, by the way. That was like, maybe a cough. Woo! Excuse me. Yeah. So note to self, no more sound effects in podcasts and live streams. But yeah, so that when they find your content, they're like, this is exactly what I need. I'm finding life. I'm finding joy in this. This person understands me. I need to watch more. Like, I need to go back and watch the whole backlog of content from this person. And so just so you know, like, my wife's channel isn't necessarily going to just, I'm saying my wife's channel because it's our family's channel, but she's kind of going to be spearheading this. It's not going to be just like how-tos and tips and sit down talking head type stuff. Like, it's still narratively based, telling our story of our kids and our family. And it's still going to be a lot of like narrative type of elements, and not just like 3 points for how you can find hope in your family. Point number 1, like, it's not going to be that way. So whether you have an educational channel primarily or an entertainment channel, the same process applies to both, because on the other end of your videos are people watching. Every view count, every stat in your analytics actually represents a real person who's giving you an opportunity to speak into their life. And what we're asking here is, what are you going to do with that opportunity? And how are you going to help them transform to be the hero that they want in the struggle and the story that they're currently living? So that's kind of the overview of how this works. Let me dive into some of your questions here. And again, put them in chat here, and Laura will put them in front of me. But West Coast Gardener asks, I am a channel that focuses on educating for gardening, but it is hard to get people to know who I am. I'm scared and nervous to change, but probably need to. I'm told video quality is good. Yeah, video quality is not actually what people watch for. I mean, there are tons of channels and even entire social media platforms like Instagram and TikTok and Snapchat, and that are they revolve around mobile videos. People getting millions of views from mobile videos. So this isn't about production value. This is about human connection value. Like, how much do I actually love what you're doing and what you're all about, and I can clearly and quickly understand what this brand represents and become sucked into it. Not in a bad way, but in a way that you actually are going to change their lives through the stories that you're telling, or through the trainings and the teachings that you're presenting. So in the gardening case, the first thing I would want to do is like maybe get to know your story a little bit. But then after that, it's like, well, tell me about your audience's story. Go through those 7 questions. And you're like, yeah, I know, like, I just want to teach people, like, here's a weed that you need to pull and how you pull it to get the roots and not leave it so it comes up again. Like, that's kind of the boring element. But like, what's at stake if they don't do this? And why does the garden matter to you and ultimately to them in the first place? And is this garden a reflection of who they are? Or is there some sort of pride that they get out of this garden, that they just love nothing better than to serve like this homemade salsa that they've created from their garden to their family? Or what is the deeper reason, like, why they're even doing the garden in the first place, and try to tap into that part of the story? Because you can get vegetables much quicker and more affordably at a grocery store than you can to grow it yourself, right? Especially if you take the amount of time and energy and consider that into it. So they're not doing it for a financial reason. They're actually doing things for some other belief that they have. And so tap into that, and that will make a really big difference. And then unfolding the rest of that story like we kind of walked through. Mandy Irby asks, I'm trying to incorporate more stories on my channel, but I'm so stuck on turning a tough topic into a story. It's not a natural story. So how do I turn it into one? And then they say, I want to interview a few people at an upcoming conference. Normally I'd ask them something so that they can teach, but do you think I should ask them to share a story instead? Yeah, Mandy, that's actually the direction I would go. And I've shared this story before, so I'll keep it brief here. But I actually did an experiment a few years ago with that, which was like I was at a conference and I interviewed 9 people, and I did 2 videos with each of them. The first video was, tell me the story of how you accomplished this thing or overcame this problem or achieved this result, like whatever it is. Like, how did you, the story of, and then if I was going to put it in like to a principle, thing my audience wants, right? Or obstacle my audience faces. So how you went from 0 to 1 million subscribers in 1 year. Tell me the story of how you reached out and achieved a collaboration with a bigger YouTube creator. Like, right? So how did you achieve thing your audience wants? And then I also said, like, just sat down and did, give me the quick 3 bullet points that really summarize what that was all about. The 3 ways to get to 1 million subscribers in 1 year. 5 tips for reaching out to your favorite creator for a collaboration, something like that. And I published those videos side by side at the same time to see which would perform better. And out of the 9 times, 7 of them, the story element worked much better. Higher retention. It was like twice the retention, twice the watch time, quadruple the engagement, and sometimes as high as 10x the views as the exact same information, but in bullet point format. It was like way less. So the story element always outperformed just the quick bullet points, except for if the story was lame or the story was missing some key elements, such as what was at stake. People didn't understand like what would happen if this didn't happen. Like, why is this so bad? They didn't get it. They were out. They would just leave the video. In which case, the bullet point version then did perform better. So the story elements need to be in there, but yeah, consider going to these interviews, asking the person to tell a story. And the way I would do it is I actually talk with them ahead of time. Like, what's the story? Like, tell me about a time when you, and then they would tell me the story. I'd be like, perfect. Let's kind of tell that story. And then me understanding the story a little bit, I would ask questions that would lead them through who is the character, what do they want, why can't they have what they want, what's at stake if they don't get it, who or what comes along to help them ultimately get what they want, how do they end up getting it, and then how are they changed as a result, and then just kind of walking them through that story. So, but often on topics that are like, I don't know what the story is on this, it's just like, here's how you change the watch, the battery in your watch. It's like, yeah, well, you can do that video, but like, hey guys, here's my watch. Got it from my grandmother. I love this because it reminds me every day of like, you know, how precious time is, and we don't have a lot of it. And when the battery dies, like, you feel like time is gone. And so let me show you. I don't know. I just made that up off the top of my head. I don't know if that works or not, but you get the idea of like just sharing an element of a story that's like, oh, this person's a human too, like me. And they'll definitely have a lot of good, much better results. AJ Lazarus, thank you for the super chat. Says, I've been trying to figure out how to apply your ideas to music videos. Wondering whether I should put a selection at the end of talking to the camera, or if text and links would be good enough. Any advice? Great question. There's lots of ways to do this in music. A good friend of mine, Peter Hollins, if you check out his channel on YouTube, all acapella music, a couple million subscribers. What he does is he recommends people do this. He says, like, you always come back at the end of the video and talk. I know it's not like super professional in terms of like MTV type of format, but we're not on MTV. We are on YouTube. And at the end of your music, you just tell a quick story. Like, guys, when I was writing this song, I was in a place of deep depression, and I didn't think I'd ever get out of it. And I just wanted nothing more than to feel like I was alive again, right? And so I wrote this song. And and you should start telling that story. It doesn't have to be long, 30 seconds, 1 minute, something like that. You will see an audience retention dip at that point, but there will be some, and this is what makes it worth it, who will hear that story and be like, subscribe, I'm watching every video they've ever done, and I'm watching every video they ever do because that is my story. And so whether it's at the end of the music video, you tell them about the story, or whether you just publish a separate video about that, or while you're working on writing your next music, your next piece, you can say like, guys, here's the struggle I'm facing. Here's the obstacle I'm trying to overcome, because what I really want is for this to be the most epic music video for you ever. But the budget is gone and I'm having writer's block and the blah, blah, blah. You're just coming through all, like you're involving them in the whole story, so that when that video then finally drops, people who know that whole story, like they're watching that entire video and sharing it, and they're probably crying at the end of it too, because they know what went into creating that. So, yeah, the music is very emotional and has a lot of stories in it just due to the nature of the content. So it's just about, even the music itself can tell a story. The visuals of the music video themselves don't necessarily just have to be you with a guitar standing in front of a microphone for 4.5 minutes. You could put a little creativity into that and show a story visually with B-roll that coincide with the music as well. So a lot of opportunities there. The baby's booty. That's an interesting channel name. You might get flagged on YouTube for some of your content, depending on what the baby's booty is actually about. But does the backstory have to be told with every video, or how often? No, it doesn't have to be told in every video. And I think you should keep it in front of people. Like I have a kind of a longer version I tell when I know I'm in front of people who've never heard of me before, such as like before I give a presentation at a conference or something, I'll open up with my story and share a little bit more detail there. But even like you guys who have been around for a while, you know how I got started. And so sometimes it's just enough for me to point back to that and be like, yeah, I just wanted to introduce my girlfriend to my family across the country. So I uploaded a video to YouTube. And that's how we got started, right? Even sometimes just that can just be enough for people to be like, oh, that's interesting. Like he didn't get started here because he thought he could get rich real quick, or he's not just doing this because he wants to feel popular, or he's not just doing this because he thinks he's God's gift to humanity or whatever. It's like, no, like this guy like has some sort of human element there that people just kind of like, oh, that's, I guess some people will say that's cute, right? Eva Antonia, what should I do when I want to share one big personal story, which I think would help to connect with a niche group, but I'm afraid to share it because it's really personal? It's a great question. I mean, you are putting this on the internet, and once it's on the internet, it's there forever. No matter what privacy settings you think you have set on Facebook, or what group of friends you've shared this with, or what your Instagram privacy level is at, those things, like they break. And there's errors and there's leaked data all the time, right? So you just rule of thumb, I just kind of make everything public. I don't have any of those settings because my personal setting is like, I just don't publish anything I wouldn't want the world to know forever and ever. So if there is a part of that you're like, this is too personal, and there are parts of my story that I've never shared publicly on the internet because it's just not appropriate for the internet. And it doesn't need to be out there. Like I share it personally one-on-one with people, but never when I feel like it's being recorded. So that, there's no reason why you got to share every single deep, dark secret. It's just like share what you need to share that tells the story well, but especially if it's like someone else's reputation is at stake, especially then I don't share stuff, like, well, at least without permission. But some things you just know, like, yeah, like that should not be shared because of that person's reputation. And then Priscilla and Munchkin said, how can one make everyday life vlogs worthy? So that is this coming Thursday's video, is actually how do you, especially in terms of vlogging, how do you take something that's unscripted like your day and turn it into a story when you're going through the story without really knowing what the end result is and what the story is going to become? How do you do that? That's actually a process I'm going to walk you through on this Thursday's video. So subscribe if you haven't already, youtube.com/video creators. But the short gist of it is you kind of go into the day knowing what you want. Like, well, you're the character and what do you want from today? And so now that becomes like the storyline that you're kind of paying attention to throughout that day. And you open up that vlog and be like, guys, today I just want my kids to go on a roller coaster. which is actually that's the story I'm telling on Thursday's video. So the audio is struggling because I'm out loud, but in a loud environment at an amusement park. But I just want my kids to experience this roller coaster because I want them to face their fears, do hard things, and know that sometimes things that are scary are absolutely worth it in the end. And then you want to do it again and again and again, but it's just getting over that first hump, right? So that's what I want. And so then when I'm going through that day, then I know like, okay, I got to get B-roll of the kids doing this, and I've got to talk about the obstacles that are preventing my kids from doing that. Like this one's really scared, this one's nervous, this one's terrified, this one is seeing how high it goes, and like I'm afraid of heights, I can't go that high, right? All the things, and then it kind of comes to the end of, do they go on the roller coaster? Yes or no? But you'll have to watch the video on Thursday to see how that video turns out. But and I give you a lot more in that content too, in terms of the B-roll you should capture and the A-roll you should capture, and how reality shows, television shows, that's exactly what they do. They're capturing unscripted content and then turning it into a story. And so I'll kind of break down a little bit about how reality television does it, and some of those principles that we can take for our vlogs as well. So look for the video. Sounds like a big promo for that. So yeah, you should watch that. Cool. Guys, I am really looking forward to hearing your feedback, especially from you guys who are on the audience, the podcast. I know there's some people who say that. I'm sorry. I can't help it. I love it. Some people love it. We've already been through this. We're not going through it again. But tweet me at Tim Schmoyer. I really want to hear what your thoughts are about this. And for those of you guys who are here in the chat, do that as well. And go through those 7 questions, and if you go through it and actually break it down in a Word document, share the Word document link with me. I would love to see that. You can just tweet it to me. Remember, you're making it public on the internet, so don't put anything on the document on the internet to see. But yeah, so share that with me. I'd love to hear it. And if you are listening to iTunes or SoundCloud or Stitcher or wherever you listen to this stuff, a review, if you don't mind, like a star rating and review helps us out. We love it. And looking forward to seeing what you guys say and getting some of your feedback there as well. And I actually just did wrap up a thing on Story Labs. We did our first beta for 5 weeks with a group of creators and took some people, worked with them through the stories on their channel. And the results were amazing. It was like 3x the engagement. One guy just put up a dinky video, not really expecting it to do really well, but incorporated all the story elements, and now it's the top performing video on his channel, right? So and people who are seeing average 3x the views and engagement and everything from implementing the stuff we taught through Story Labs. So if you guys are interested, it's still in beta. I'm not going to open it up publicly yet, but if you want to be one of the first to know about it when it comes out, make sure you're on my email list. You can sign up, and as a thank you, you get my free guide called The Secret to Building Your YouTube Channel, your YouTube audience. So you can get that, but make sure you're on the email list, and when that becomes broadly available, I'll email you and let you know. So link to that is down in the show notes of this episode, or also in the live stream here. You can find a link to sign up for that. Thank you, Tom, for closing us out with a $5 super chat. It's like, if you love it, keep it. Thanks for the great info today. You're welcome. Thank you, Tom. And I will see all of you guys again next week for another Video Creators Podcast episode / live stream. See you guys then. Bye.